Hello everybody, today we're doing a video for GTA Car Kits and a 2014 Porsche Cayenne, and today we're installing our version 2 of our Apple CarPlay and Android Auto kit. With this version, you have less wiring to do, you don't need to wire an extra microphone, and it's overall a simpler install. Now our product supports both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly. You can control the system with using the original knobs, or you can control it with the touchscreen. And as you can see, we also paired it to our Android phone wirelessly, and it's supported. And here you have Android Auto. You will not lose any functionality from your original stereo. You can easily switch back to the original system by pressing and holding the info button. Your original reverse camera will still work the same way. And now we're gonna go ahead and show you how to install it in your car. So the tools that you're gonna need is a T27 Torx on the ratchet, then a panel removal tool, a hook tool, which is also part of the panel removal toolkit, and then two small screwdrivers or something thin. They can be flat or they can be sharp, as long as they're just a few millimeters wide. And we're going to show you why, because you're going to use them to unlock the locks to remove the vents. We also then suggest to use a microfiber cloth when you're going to be removing the radio, so you can cover the panel here not to scratch anything. And of course you're going to need our kit. We're going to start with the passenger vent, and we're going to insert our thin screwdrivers into the bottom locks, and then you're gonna kind of squeeze them so they undo the locks, and then in the bottom we're gonna unlock it with our panel removal tool. Now that the bottom is unlocked, we're just gonna unlock the top lock. Seems that it's been unlocked, so you can just pull the vent out. As you can see, there's two locks on this side and same on the other, and we're inserting the two of our tools right here into these holes. So that's why I said you can use pretty much any tool that will fit inside this opening. And then these rubber pieces might come off when you're removing the vent. You can just put them back. Same with this piece. You just have to put it back now so you don't lose it. Now there's a connection here at the bottom. There's no clip that you need to press. You just pull on it, it will come off. Now we will do the same on the driver's side. Start from the bottom and unlock the first lock. We're going to do the second lock. Now with bringing them together, again we're going to get underneath. It will come off. Same thing, you don't need to unlock the top locks, but you might be at a point that the vent is like this and something is not letting go, so you would have to insert your two tools into the upper locks in order to unlock the vent. So same thing, you have a connection here, you just pull on it, it will disconnect. Now there's 4 bolts, so 2 on each side, the T27s. So 2 on passenger side and 2 on the driver's side. We're going to use our T27 on the ratchet and remove them. So now the radio is ready to come out, so we're going to turn the ignition on. With the ignition on, without starting the engine, we're just going to put the drive select into drive. We're going to cover our bottom panel, and you can turn off the accessory position. And we're going to pull the radio out. So at the back of the stereo, you're going to disconnect all the connections. First, the quad lock harness. There's a clip right here, which you have to press. Then we're going to do the antennas. We're going to press on these clips and carefully underneath use our tool to get them out. Now we're going to do the 2 antennas over here. Same thing, they have different style of clip. You just press it and remove it. And this one also has the same clip, but it's on the side. Here we go. And now that the radio is disconnected, we're going to go inside and install the motherboard inside of it. So we have the radio that we removed, and the two tools that you're going to need is a T8 Torx and the hook tool. We also suggest to use, again, microfiber cloth whenever you work on the radio so you don't scratch anything. So now we're going to show you what comes inside the kit. So you have your basic wiring diagram. Then you also have your 2 antennas for wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Then you have your 2 sets of spacers. So you have 3 long ones and 3 short ones, and we're gonna tell you about the differences once we start installing. Then you have your 2 video cables that are used to connect our module with the original screen. Then you have your main motherboard or the module, whichever way you're gonna call it, but that's essentially the whole kit, and that's what we're gonna install inside the stereo. Then you have the main quad lock harness to connect to the original one inside the car. Then you also have these two cables, which we're also gonna install inside the stereo. And then you have this cable, which has a USB female on one end, and then the ability for you to add extra front or rear cameras to your car. So first you're gonna flip the stereo over, and then over here at the bottom you have this panel. It's held on two plastic clips, so you're just gonna unclip it on each side and remove it. Now with using our T8 Torx, we're gonna remove the two bolts at the bottom of the stereo. Something to note, that all the bolts that we're going to be removing are one size, but the ones, particularly these ones, are the shortest ones. So when you're putting everything back, make sure that the shortest ones go at the bottom of the stereo. Now at the top of the stereo, we're going to do the same thing. There's two more bolts. So now on the side of the stereo, there's these two locks on each side. So you have to press them with anything small, and at the same time push on the screen. Same on this side. At this point you can disconnect the faceplate of the stereo. You're gonna tilt it, and there's two locks over there at the bottom, which you have to unhook. So the locks are right here, and then you're gonna rest the body of the stereo, and there's the two clips that hold these wires in place. So we're gonna use our hook tool and carefully release them. So there's one. There you go, that's the second one. So now this is the back of the stereo, and we're gonna remove 3 more bolts. We're also going to remove this one right here. So if you have a XM, you would actually have an antenna here, but again you would have the same bolt, and again you would do the same thing. You would remove it because we're going to use this opening to feed the 2 wires and the antennas inside our stereo. So then we're going to push from the back of the stereo towards the front in order to release the locks on the sides. Once you get about right here, you can take the stereo apart. So you can have this cable still be connected, that's okay. You're just gonna remove these 2 wires that you disconnected from the back of the screen, because they're gonna go into our module. Next, we're gonna remove 3 bolts on the inside. So there's one right here. The second one is right there. And this is the third one. So now we're going to take our longer spacers, because there's the short ones and the long ones, and we're going to install them instead of those bolts, because this radio doesn't have XM, so you can install these ones. But if your car would have an XM, you would have one more motherboard right here. So then you would have to make 3 long spacers instead of just 3 short ones or medium size. So you would go like this in order for our motherboard to be able to float over it, but this radio doesn't have it, so we're just going to use these ones right here, and we're going to mount them into those holes. So we're going to take our board and the 2 video cables that came with it. First we're going to start with the big one. We're going to make sure that we inserted it fully, and then we're going to lock the lock. You also got to make sure that it's sitting straight, otherwise once you turn the radio on, nothing will be displayed. We'll do the same with this smaller one. Lock it in place. Now we will take these 2 cables, and you're kind of gonna fold them so they fit through these holes. You need them on the inside. We're also gonna feed our 2 wireless antennas inside. Here you go. So we're going to take the 2 cables and we're going to plug them inside the motherboard. Make sure they're sitting all the way in. Same with the smaller one. Now we'll also connect the 2 antennas. So there's these small connections right here. Here's one. Here's the second one. And at this point, we're gonna install the motherboard inside the stereo using the original bolts on top of the spacers. You can feed the two video cables out. Then we will connect the original video cables onto our module. So you're gonna unlock the lock and then insert it all the way in and make sure it's sitting straight before you lock it. Same thing with the smaller one. So now we will assemble the stereo, and we'll first put the top back. It has to be slightly open, and then you slide it in order to lock it in place. Here you go. Now we will connect the original LCD back using these two cables. Same thing, you gotta make sure that the locks are unlocked. And then you have to insert them all the way in, make sure that they're straight, and then you lock it in place. Same with the smaller one. So if you start testing the stereo and you get black screen or something is not working, it's most likely you didn't connect it properly right here or inside the stereo, where we did the exact same thing with these type of cables. So that's the first thing you'll be checking. Now we will assemble the screen to our body. So we'll start over here. You're gonna line up that piece in the middle. It goes in first, and then there's the two locks. So you'll do that. So before closing it, you gotta make sure that these metal things slide back into their spots and not bent like these ones. And then they will clip in place. Here you go. So now you can put all the bolts back, but we also suggest that at this point you can install our quad lock harness to the back of the stereo and then connect it with this particular connection, the smaller one, and connect it to your car and test it to make sure that it works. And then you can put all the bolts back, because if it's something is not working, you didn't connect the cables properly, you don't want to be removing all the bolts again. So again, we tested the stereo. Now we can put all the bolts back and everything worked. The radio lit up and touchscreen was working. So now we can continue. We will mount these antennas on top of the stereo. You can put them like that, and we'll just put some clear tape over them. So you gotta try for the cables to stay out from here, but it's okay to be on top of the stereo. Now we will put the 3 bolts back at the back of the stereo. Then we have one more bolt that will not do anything, but just so you don't have any extra bolts laying around after, we're just gonna put it back. At the bottom of the stereo, there's the 2 short bolts that we're gonna put back. And the 2 last bolts on top of the stereo. And then this is the last plastic piece at the bottom of the stereo that you just have to slide on. So now with everything assembled, we're gonna continue inside our car. So now we're back in the car, and we're gonna install this USB female cable inside the glove box. You can also install it here by the driver's knee. You can feed the wire through and then push this cable down to have it coming out there, but we're gonna do it in glove box. If you have small enough hands, you can, there's an opening in the corner there, stick your arm through, and you're gonna catch this cable at the back of the stereo. So this female USB cable is used to connect your Apple or Android device by wire, and it's also used to initiate your first time wireless pairing, so it's important to install this cable. So here we have our radio, and the quad lock harness is installed. We're just going to show you again. So when you put this quad lock in the back of your stereo, you got to make sure that you insert it at the right angle, so it goes in straight and goes almost all the way in, and then you clip it inside. That way it makes a good connection. Then again, we showed this earlier, we're gonna connect one of the power harnesses. Then we're gonna connect our USB here, but this is the original quad lock, and many of these vehicles have they call a fiber optic cable for the upgraded sound system, but this car doesn't have it. But if your car has something in there, you would flip it over, you would undo this clip from the bottom, you would take that cable out, and you would plug it in here to this slot on our harness. Because if you don't transfer that cable over, then your vehicle will not have any sound. So it's important to note, it's just this particular car doesn't have it. So we're going to take the original harness and install it into our harness with the quad lock open. We're going to take it and install it. It went all the way in, and then we can lock it. And then this is the cable that we ran to the glove box. Here you go, make sure it clips on this side. And now we're going to connect all the antennas back. Black one goes here. So now we're going to put the radio back. Make sure that there's no cables on the way of the body of the stereo. When you're putting the stereo back, you got to make sure that this harness goes at the bottom over there in order for the stereo to have enough space to go back in. So once the radio is installed, before putting the bolts back, we're going to just test the CarPlay. So we will turn the stereo on. And then you're going to press and hold the info button. You get this mode which you didn't have before, so everything looks correct. You're going to connect your iPhone. And here you go, CarPlay launched. So you're going to switch back to the original system. For source, you can choose auxiliary or auxiliary Bluetooth if you have CarPlay. So you will turn on some music, make sure that it works through CarPlay. You will also test the touchscreen, so everything works. The original controls work. And now at this point we can turn it off and continue with finishing off the installation. We'll start putting the 4 bolts back. Now we can put the vents back. So you're gonna first connect the connection here at the bottom. And then slide the vent in. Same on the driver's side. Put the connection in. So at this point the installation is complete. Again, this was a video for GTA Car Kits and the Porsche Cayenne. I hope you liked the video, and we'll see you next time.